Welcome to the fourth tutorial in Beginning Java. In the last tutorial, in tutorial 3, we dealt with math operators. In this tutorial, we're going to deal with some more operators that I did not discuss in that video. Specifically, we're going to be talking today about incrementing and decrementing a variable. Now, this is a very common thing that goes on in Java programs. You're going to have to change the value, and the way we do that is we will use operators to accomplish those types of tasks. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's do a plus plus operator that will increment our value by 1. So we'll start out with that. So let's declare a variable here. It's going to be an integer. We're going to call that the variable score, and we're going to give that a value of 10. And then we're going to use the plus plus operator here, and we're going to put our variable after that. And then we have to do a system out print. So what we did here is we declared the variable score. We assigned it a value of 10, and we're going to increment that by 1, which with the plus plus increment operator. So if we run this, we will get a value of 11. Now we can also put the plus plus incremental operator down in the system out. And we can do that right here in the parenthesis, and we'll run this again, and we'll get the same result, 11. So putting the plus plus operator before the variable is called prefixing. You can also move that to behind the variable, and that is called, when you put it behind the variable name, that is called postfixing. Now there is a difference how this works, and I'll show you. So again, you'll notice that when it was before, it returned a number of 11. So it did increment it by 1. Now let's move the plus plus behind the variable of score. And we'll run this again, and you'll notice that we'll get a different result here. We got 10. It did not increment it by 1. And the reason is that a postfixed operator is used on a variable, and the value will not change until after the expression has been evaluated. And so in this case, it's been evaluated and it will not take place. So that's the reason that if you put it before the variable, it gets evaluated and it's part of the final equation. So in order to get this operator to compute, we actually have to do another system out print. And we remove the plus plus operator, run this again. Now we get 11 because you can see here it evaluated it. And you can see here it printed out the 10, but then it also printed out 11 because this was evaluated after the expression was complete. I want to point out one more thing too. When you down in this output line, if we did an ln here and we run this again, or actually we have to do 2 ln's. You'll see here that these are all outputted on their own lines. So that's how that works. And if we remove the ln's, you will see that it's all on the same line. So that's how that works. Okay, so moving along, let's get rid of line 8 here. And now I will show you the decrement operators, and that's just obviously going to be minus score. Whoops, spelled that wrong. And let's run this file, and you'll see we get 9, so it just took off 1. And once again, we'll add the incremental operator. Even though we did that before, we'll just run this again, and we get 11. Now, one thing I'd also like to point out here is you do not have to use the plus plus incremental operator to add 1 to your value. You can also achieve that by just using the plus operator, and I'll show you that. I mean, it's pretty simple. So we could just say score equals score plus 1, and you would get, if we run this, you will get the same result, 11. So that's another way you can just do that as well. That's not normally how people code. They'll use the plus plus incremental operator, but you could also, I mean, this is obviously a little bit easier to read, So some people actually prefer to code their Java that way. A final point I would like to make is the idea of operator precedent. We'll get into this in the more advanced tutorials, but I just want to touch upon that subject right now before ending this tutorial. So let's just put in, we're not going to actually run anything with operator precedence, but I'll put in some comments. So the first order of precedence is always given to the decremental and incremental operators. So they always get first precedence. The second order of precedence is given to multiplication. Just spell that out. And division. And then there's a third order of precedence, and that is always given to addition and subtraction, the adding and subtracting operators. Fourth order of precedence is given to comparisons, and there is yet a fifth order of precedence, and that is given to the equal sign, which, as you know, is used to set the variable's value. So that is the order of precedence. You should just be aware of that, because if you start using multiple operators, you'll need to know what operators take precedence over the other operators. So again, just, this is a lot of information, but just float this in the back of your mind. Again, we'll get more into this at a later point. So that ends this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one.